When I ask myself the question, have we improved in areas of race and gender equality within sports? I can't say that in some ways we have improved, but we're nowhere near where we should be. When I think about if we improve gender equality within sports, I can agree that we have seen greater representation in women in sports media and other sports related jobs, but I can't ignore the fact that women are still being mistreated within the sports industry, which we can see from the first video. These sports journalists are being referred to as derogatory names, and some of the tweets talk about sexual assault towards these women, which we also see a situation of sexual assault in the sports industry with USA Gymnastics and Larry Nassar. Unfortunately, there are so many more examples of stories of mistreatment of women in the sports industry that aren't even being talked about. As a woman who has had sports in her life, I reflect on my experience in sports. I think about how in the second video with Kaylin Nolan that this is no exaggeration on what experience women have within sports. I have had conversations with men where they feel that I have to prove my love for sports and a sports fan by giving them the latest stats on football or the entire history of the NBA. I have been told that I wouldn't be good for the sports industry and told that this major isn't for me because I haven't played football before. The fact that something like Always Late with Kaylin Nolan is a thing shows that there has been some improvement in gender equality within sports, but there's a long way to go. One day, I'd like to see a classroom full of inspiring sports professional that doesn't only have 5 women out of the 19 students in the class. I would like to see more women feel as though the sports industry is for them and not told that a better career choice for them would be nursing or social work. When it comes to race equality in sports, I would say that there has been some improvement, but again, we have such a long way to go. There has been so many microaggressions that are said without thought and consequences in the sports industry. In the TED Talk video, it discusses the racial associations that people have on athletes. We are so conditioned to thinking that these racial associations are normal, and we do it without even realizing that we're doing it. I think of my experiences as a Black woman, and I reflect on how growing up, I would play sports like volleyball and softball, which is seen as for white girls. I would sometimes hear people refer to me as the token Black girl, which means that I was placed on a team to show diversity. I also see a decline in sports in Black communities. I remember when I was little, I will be able to just walk to practices, but the older I got, the further that I would have to drive to get to practices. I'm very interested to see how that plays out in the long run, since there is such a decline in sports in Black communities, and children in those communities aren't really exposed to sports until maybe middle school. I think the sports industry will struggle to improve because society as a whole isn't improving. I grew up seeing the picture of Tommie Smith and John Carlos holding up their Black Power fist in protest of discrimination in America in 1968. And I see pictures of Colin Kaepernick taking a knee in protest of police brutality in 2016. In my opinion, society is at a decline in the improvement of racial equality, and it's shown when I open up social media and I see people like George Floyd and other Black people being killed by the police. To me, I think the sports industry can't truly improve until the greater society improves, especially because many athletes are criticized for speaking out on issues in society.